I just spilled on myself. Now people are going to think I was crying after that last part. All right, everyone, I'm back with the gut-wrenching song series. This is kind of a tough one to do because a lot of the times I have to go back and relive the pain that I went through the first time I was hearing these songs. This time we're going back to the 90s, when alternative music was everywhere and there were a ton of really depressing songs. So a lot of these are real personalized to my situations, but I think because it was played on the radio so much, it's going to be universal pretty much to everybody who was around back then. Number 10 is Fake Plastic Trees by Radiohead. Came out in 1995, and what I remember really well is the music video, because it was Tom York in a shopping cart getting pushed around a grocery store, I believe, but really left an impression on me, very memorable. Also, just the chords themselves just take you to a very sad, nostalgic place. Check it out. So we have A major, A sus, which always does the job. Then we take the F sharp and put it at the bottom. It kind of has a Purple Rain feel to it, doesn't it? Which is kind of funny because I heard Prince actually call Journey when he was writing Purple Rain, and he's like, do you mind if I use that chord progression? Because it's very close to the song Faithfully. It just reminds me of like a 70s love ballad type singing style, which is really cool.
Packed in the morning, the green plastic watering can.
Some songs evoke like a smell to me, so I'd have to say if this song had a smell, it would be the smell of my old 70s couch that I grew up on. And I would sit on it basically while my dad watched TV shows like MASH, and I just remember the way it smelled, you know, him drinking beer while I sat on a smelly couch. Now I know a lot of people are going to say, why didn't you choose Creep? That's the obvious example. It was just so overplayed at the time that when Fake Plastic Trees came out, it was actually kind of refreshing that there was like a new Radiohead ballad on the radio. The song just keeps building, and it's really cool when the string part comes in with the keys because it just has this swelling quality to it. It's almost like it wells up the tears in your eyes for you. You don't have to do any work. And the last thing I'll talk about is the crazy, distorted, fuzzy guitar that comes in at the climax of this song. So, I mean, Johnny Greenwood is really known for adding textures and layers, and this time he just knocks it out of the park. Okay, we already have to switch to electric guitar, so let's do that. Number 9 is Until I Fall Away by Gin Blossoms. It came out in 1993, and I really could have chosen pretty much any Gin Blossoms tune, but this one in particular hit me at a certain time in a certain way. Now, it's kind of easy to just kind of scoff right off the Gin Blossoms simply by like their look and their name back in the day. I thought they were just some crappy college band or something trying to cash in on a trend until I really started to listen to their music and do a deep dive on their backstory. Then I knew that they were totally legit. So when I heard the tragic story about Doug Hopkins, their guitar player who had depression and alcoholism, he ended up offing himself after this album came out. And so every time I hear their music and heard their music, I would think of that and it would add to the sadness. It was part of a playlist I put together back in the day that I called Melancholy Lullabies because it helped put me to sleep. It somehow comforted me at the same time it made me sad. It was this really weird, like abusive relationship I had with music back then. Besides the awesome melodies and catchy hooks, what I really love about the vocal stylings of Robin Wilson is that his voice has this vulnerability to it. So it's not in your face at all. It sounds like he's just kind of singing and honoring the music with emotion. He's not trying to like push it, or he's not trying to oversell it. He's just singing and doing it justice. And real quick for the musicians out there, what I love about this intro is it fools my ear. It starts off and it sounds like it's on the one beat, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. But really it's supposed to start on the and of 4. Not only that, but the first big A chord that hits is on the and of 4 as well. So it's very deceiving. So it's really supposed to be like 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Isn't that crazy? This band has a great way of taking dark and moody, kind of depressing subject matter and playing it in a catchy, poppy, syrupy kind of style that you can't stop singing it. But as you're singing it, you're going, wow, those words are messed up. Okay, I need the capo for this next one. It's The Freshman by the Verve Pipe. And if you were around, I believe this came out in 96, you know that it was played every other second on the radio. So it's definitely seared into our brains, those of us who were around back then. And And then I love it when an opening line just gets me right off the bat. And it's, when I was young, I knew everything. And I think if you're older than your 20s, you understand that statement completely. It's like, man, I wish I could go back in time when I knew everything, when I was 22. And then when I heard what the song was about, it's very serious. It's about getting rid of your baby after you find out you're pregnant. The girlfriend, spoiler, ends up taking pills and dying. And then the guy is left just questioning what the hell just happened. So it's pretty heavy stuff. They had real good production in this tune. When the second chorus hits, there's this gnarly fuzz guitar that I really didn't notice back in the day. It just kind of sits in the mix really nice. But now when I listen back to it with headphones, it's very apparent.
For the life of me, I cannot remember.
I also love the bendy electric part. It's very Jimmy Page sounding. Here's kind of an obscure one for number 7. It's a song called Shade and the Black Hat by Jeremy Enoch. He's the guy from Sunny D Real Estate. And a circle of my friends all listened to this album. And it got to me eventually. And when it did, it was at one of the most depressing times in my life. So I'll never forget it. Anyway, the song starts off with this acoustic piano. And it's just this real classical sound. It has these epic chord changes underneath this repeating arpeggiated pattern. And there's an acoustic guitar that comes in, and it's not really playing like a traditional guitar. It's more accenting parts. Jeremy's accent got to me right away. I just kept thinking, man, he sounds like he's a pirate or something, singing on his ship. I just kept thinking of that. Like the other tunes, this song is building up, but this one, out of all of them, builds up the most. And it kind of tricks you, because right before it goes into the huge, hit you over the head moment, there's like a drop off where it just goes to this harpsichord sound. And it's like, where is this going? And all of a sudden, bam, you're struck with like a sucker punch. And it's truly chills-inducing. If you guys want to do yourself a favor, listen to the whole tune from the beginning till you get to that part. Don't just, I'm showing you segments, but you really have to hear the whole thing. And then from there to the end, it's just this 6/8 dance of chaos. I swear, every instrument ever invented is in the mix during this part. Number 6 is Hallelujah by Jeff Buckley. It came out in 1994. A lot of people know that song from Shrek, I believe. I think Rufus Wainwright did that version. I'm not really sure. But Jeff Buckley's version, to me, is the pinnacle of the song. Leonard Cohen wrote it, but I don't know if he could imagine how awesome somebody else could have portrayed his song. Long time ago, I was invited to go see Jeff Buckley at First Avenue in Minnesota, and it was with a girl that I liked. And we got there, and he came out on stage, and I just kept looking at her, and she was just like in heaven. Like, she couldn't take her eyes off of him. And it's funny because I got kind of jealous inside, and I was like, oh, Jeff Buckley, what's so good about him? And then a few years later, he ended up just dying. He ended up drowning. So I still to this day feel bad that I was so stupid and jealous at the time. So I just love the subtle way he opens the song like this. Now we have some real dissonance going. It's very mysterious. You're almost like, where's the song going? It kind of makes you feel a little bit uneasy at first. And then there's this build up that makes it feel a little bit more uplifting. It sounds a little bit like A Day in the Life by the Beatles. And it finally makes its way to a very familiar and comfortable chord progression, which is the 1 to 6 pattern. It's another one of those depressing yet comforting songs. And the genius, in my opinion, of this song is in the first verse, when Leonard Cohen actually writes out the chord progression. So he says, it goes like this: the 4th, the 5th, the minor fall, and the major lift. So if you're a musician who knows your chord numbers, it's a real clever way of matching the lyrics to the guitar or vice versa. And Jeff Buckley was the real deal. He wasn't just some like pretty boy looking guy who could kind of sing. The guy could sing like a bird. He he had just the most amazing voice. You could always tell it's him when you hear his voice too. It's very unique. And you can't sleep on Jeff Buckley's guitar skills either. I want to do a video on this in the future, but I've heard him play by himself at a cafe for hours and hours. He has an album where it's just that. And he's accompanying himself. And he's not just strumming chords like a singer-songwriter type person. He's actually playing very complex jazz parts. He throws in some licks and leads every once in a while. And, he's very influenced by my favorite artists. So big one is Led Zeppelin. You could really hear that in his playing. So I totally recommend checking out some solo Jeff Buckley stuff, as well as his releases, obviously. Unfortunately, he died so young that Grace is really his biggest release, but there are other albums out there that you can still hear. Number 5, I need a slide for this one. I'm sure a lot of people will agree with this one. It's Mazzy Star's Fade Into You. Came out in 1993, and the first time I heard it, it instantly sounded like it was an old classic song. And it took me a long time before I knew what she looked like, but just hearing her voice, I thought she is probably very beautiful. And the first time I saw her, I believe it was on Conan O'Brien. And I was like, yep, I was exactly right. That's exactly how I pictured her looking. The one thing that really sticks out besides her voice is the slide guitar. I thought that was a really great production idea, is to throw in something like... It's so hard to play that part and not make it sound like some Hawaiian type sound, So it's a very subtle thing. Just the sadness of her voice amplified by that reverb really captures the sound. And another thing that really adds to this song is that tambourine. It's just the perfect timbre, if you will, for the tambourine. And it fits the mix so well, just the way it's played. It's not overplayed, and it kicks in double time during the chorus. And I remember seeing a live version of this where the tambourine player was being very meticulous on how he played it. So, it deserves it. And of course, the theme of the song, especially the words in the chorus, really resonate with people. Where you like somebody for a long time, and they just, you never tell them because you just don't have the guts to do it. And you just split off into different parts of your life, and they go their way, you go your way. And that lyric that goes, I think it's strange you never knew. I think that connects on a deep level for most of us. But the worst is if you get in contact with that person later on in life and they say something like, oh, you liked me? I liked you. How come you never told me? Number 4 is Two Hearts by the Jayhawks, one of my favorite bands. This song came out in 1995. By the way, you guys might know the Jayhawks from the song Blue. That was their huge hit back in the day. And I don't just like them because they're from my hometown of, home state of Minnesota, but they write some of the most classic tunes. And it was really hard for me to get into them at first because, I'm sitting here into metal and rock, and suddenly there's a band that sounds like kind of like this rootsy country mixed with a Beatles kind of sound. And so it wasn't until I got my heart absolutely crushed that their music really started to speak to me on a deep level. And at first I was going to choose the song called Smile because that's the song I listened to all the time after my engagement ended way back in the day. I just played that over and over again. It was like my therapy. And I even put it on my MySpace page. Do you guys remember way back then, some of you might, where someone could go to your MySpace page, just like a Facebook page today, kind of, and music would just start playing when they got to your particular page. So this is my song of choice, so that shows you how much I liked it. But here's a crazy twist. So my last gig that I played, my other band member actually brought a friend, and she brought her backstage to meet me, and it was Karen from the Jayhawks. And I was just being a total fanboy. I must have made a complete idiot out of myself. But I told her about this video that I'm going to make, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to put a Jayhawks song in there because it's about depressing songs. And she goes, oh, are you going to choose Two Hearts? And I thought about it. I'm like, oh my God, that makes so much more sense than Smile. Even though I listened to Smile during a dark time, it is more of an uplifting, pick yourself up kind of a song. Whereas Two Hearts just drives a nail through my heart. Number 3 is the song Crowing from Toad the Wet Sprocket. This song came out in 1994, and it's kind of funny because I sort of forgot about it, even though it helped me get through some bad times. Had a lot of bad times. But I recently did a video where I said a singer sounded like the guy from Toad the Wet Sprocket, and I got a ton of comments from people that are like, man, I can't believe you know about that band. That's my favorite band. It's off the epic album Dulcinea, I think it's called. See, I messed it up. It's Dulcinea. I always do that. But right from the beginning, if you play that album, the song Fly From Heaven kicks in, and as soon as that chorus hits, I think it's going to hook you forever.
Like water through my hands.
The singer Glenn Phillips has something about his voice that makes me feel really comfortable and kind of at home and, relaxed. And it's funny because this song, Crowing, is one of the few songs I'll say is a great song to listen to after you've been cheated on. Usually you just want to rage and play some Cannibal Corpse or something. But this song, as far as slower songs, is a great one to listen to.
And it was never a question.
Something about this lyric just spoke to me at the time because I had just been cheated on. And the lyric goes, "Get over regrets. You were sleeping with angels. He was under the bed. And the more skin you shed, the more that the air in your throat will linger when you call him your friend." So it's kind of funny how those lyrics can connect with you in a very interesting way. It's almost like a friend helping you through a tough time by relating to you so much. So never sleep on the band Toad the Wet Sprocket because they will surprise you. If you check them out, I guarantee it, you know at least 5 of their songs. And who knows, you might go on a deep dive after that, just become a super fan like I did. Number 2, we're getting down to it now. Okay. Tori Amos' song called Winter came out in 1992, and man, did that song wreck me. It's another melancholy lullaby, and back when I was super depressed, I would hear the beginning piano part. It sounds like you just opened up like a jewelry box and it's playing a song. In my case, though, it opened Pandora's box. That's the song I played the most when I was the most depressed and I was actually delivering newspapers for a job. So it'd be the middle of the night. I have a stack of smelly Sunday papers next to me, and then Tori was playing on my CD player in my car. I was at an age where I was worried because all my friends were doing things. They were getting married, they were getting new exciting jobs, they were moving out, and I felt like I was just stuck. I'm sitting here delivering newspapers feeling depressed in the middle of the night. Especially when the lyrics say things are going to change so fast, all the white horses are still in bed. But later she says, all the white horses have gone ahead. And that just made me really feel like I was being left behind while everybody else was thriving. Or at least I thought they were. That was the perception. In reality, they weren't. But when you're in a bad spot, it always seems like everybody else is doing so much better than you. One time I actually got to meet Tori. She was coming to play a concert. And my ex-girlfriend at the time won a radio contest where we had 2 tickets to go see her do a private concert for like a radio station thing before her main concert. And we were in the audience, and afterwards they did a Q&A, and I made a complete ass out of myself because I was nervous and I couldn't think of a good question. So I asked, "Yeah, Tori, when you got signed to a record label, was that awesome?" I felt like Chris Farley in that Paul McCartney skit.
Remember when you were in the Beatles
And there was this awkward pause and the whole crowd went, "Oh." And then Tori's trying to make me feel better. She's like, yeah, that was pretty awesome." By the way, that whole segment played on the air. So yeah, the embarrassment wasn't limited to that room and those people. It went all around the airwaves. And number 1, can I have a drum roll, please? August and Everything After by Counting Crows. It came out in 1993, and I can't name one song to represent the number 1 spot. It has to be the entire album. And I think those of you who know just know what I'm talking about. It's a family of songs on this album. You can't separate them. It all has to be one thing. If you've ever been in a really cold room and you plug in a space heater, let's say, and all of a sudden it starts to warm up and you sit right next to it, even though it's super warm, almost too hot, I feel like that album represented that to me. It was like this source of warmth and happiness in a very dark time. I don't know if it's the way they recorded it. I don't know how they captured it, but they definitely captured this spirit or this soul. And it's really crazy because even to this day, when I start to play it, I feel its presence again. I know that sounds really weird, but it's true. Right from the get-go with these 3 notes. I'd have to say Round Here is still one of my, favorite songs of all time. I think it's one of the best, most well-written songs, composed just very poetically, and the melodies are so great that I think I could actually sing the melody and every word to this entire album just by memory because the way Adam Duritz wrote it is so catchy. Now, the weird part of that is I've seen them live 3 times now, and every time he sings a song that the whole crowd knows every word for, he changes it up, almost like a jazz improviser. It's never the same twice. So the whole crowd is singing what's on the album, but Adam Duritz is taking it to a whole nother place. lyrics. So I find a lot of really great artists do that because I don't know if they get bored with the old way or if they just never really solidified the old way in their head. So it's always new, always fresh. It's kind of an interesting thing to see live. So I'd ask that you put on earbuds or headphones and try to listen to at least one song from this album. And I think all of them are eventually going to grow on you. You're going to know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the warmth, the analog vibe from it. It's just very comforting. But speaking of build-ups in songs, check out Round Here. And the part where he says, "She's always on my mind," is probably one of the best build-ups to a climax of all time. And the tasteful playing really inspired me and influenced me. I remember trying to copy what the drummer does for most of the songs. He's just a very bare bones but tight and tasteful drummer. The whole band basically plays that way. And it's great because nobody's showing off and they're leaving a lot of room for the main focus, which is Adam Duritz, his singing, his lyrics, his presence. And that's why the band works, because nobody's, trying to take away from that. And a lot like the singer for the Gin Blossoms, Adam's voice just hits a certain frequency that sits well with people. It agrees with you for some reason. It's vulnerable, but he does get a little more shouty than the guy from Gin Blossoms, but it's in a good way. Okay, everyone, so let me know in the comments what you thought of my top 10. If you want, leave yours in the comment section and I'll check them out. But thank you for watching, and we'll catch you later. Bye-bye.